Imagine this. You step onto a busy ward and you discover a genuine error has been made.
Hmm.
Maybe a patient received the wrong blood test results, or, maybe you realize sensitive patient confidentiality was breached. Their file went to the wrong email address.
Right, that horrible sinking feeling.
Exactly. The patient is understandably upset. Your senior is tied up in theater, and that feeling of cold dread just hits you. You have to act now.
Yeah.
What is your absolute non-negotiable first move in that moment?
That immediacy, that ethical pressure point is precisely what we're diving into today. Welcome to the deep dive. This entire deep dive is focused on handling medical errors and patient complaints.
And it's a huge topic.
It's a high-frequency, must-know topic, and it's all governed by the General Medical Council. Knowing the exact framework it'll protect your patients and your professional integrity.
Our sources today, they're pulling directly from SJT preparatory materials, which map straight onto the GMC guidance on Candour. We've gone through those textbooks and notes to really extract what the exam writers are looking for.
That core mindset.
Yeah, that core mindset. Our mission is to nail down the precise sequence of events that protects the patient, upholds professional integrity, and actually turns a mistake into safer practice instead of just, brushing it under the rug.
We are going for the core truth here. Acknowledging, apologizing, assessing harm, escalating, and then making sure that learning actually happens.
Okay.
So here's the one-sentence takeaway that should govern every single decision you make in one of these scenarios. Full marks go to the candidate who owns the error, protects the patient first, involves seniors early, records clearly, and shows concrete systemic learning.
And if you're not doing
If you are doing anything that delays disclosure, that hides facts, or avoids escalation, you are failing the test of professional probity. Simple as that.
Okay, let's unpack that central truth, because this isn't just about, being a nice person. This is about formal, documented governance and compliance with GMC requirements. Why does the GMC prioritize this so highly, and why does the exam focus on it so much?
It's all rooted in trust. The GMC's core document, Good Medical Practice 2024, it clearly mandates candor.
And candor is just openness and honesty.
Exactly. Openness and honesty when things go wrong.
Yeah.
It is the absolute foundation of the doctor-patient relationship. If you hide the error, you don't just betray that patient's trust. You hide the weakness in the system that allowed the error to happen in the first place.
So if the GMC expectation is clear, be open, be honest, keep timely and accurate records, how do we translate that into high-scoring behavior on the exam? I find a lot of people, their instinct is to default to defensiveness or trying to minimize the harm. I'm guessing that tanks the score?
Absolutely, it tanks the score.
Yeah.
The exam rewards decisive, high-integrity action. We see the scoring logic really divides a successful candidate's response into 3 specific categories.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is candor with compassion. A timely, specific apology and really clear communication about what's going to happen next will always score highly.
So no delaying.
Delay or minimizing the impact is just unacceptable.
And the second category, this speaks to systems, right? Which is often where junior doctors panic because they don't know the exact mechanism to use.
That's governance literacy. This means you must know how to escalate. It's not enough to just tell your senior. You have to use the formal mechanisms.
Like an incident report.
Exactly. The clinical governance system, the incident reporting system, and involving supporting services like HALS.
That's the patient advice and liaison service.
Yes, and they help patients navigate the whole process of raising concerns. The incident reporting part is essential because it's the mechanism by which the whole organization learns.
Okay, and the third category, the sort of long-term consequence of the mistake.
That's learning and reflection. You need to show constructive follow-through. Taking immediate safety actions is one thing, but reflection, feeding back to the team, suggesting systemic changes, that's the highest level of professional response. So the options that protect the patient: disclose the information, escalate through the right pathways, document factually, and convert incidents into shared learning. Those are the options that consistently get full marks.
So the minute you encounter an error, you have to be thinking safety first, candor second, governance third, and then learning fourth. That sounds like a lot to remember under pressure.
It is, which is why having a clear, memorized framework is so vital.
So if the principles are the why, we really need the how. What's that practical, real-time checklist that gets us through the initial panic? We found a great, simple memory aid in the sources, APEX-L.
APEX-L.
This is the 5-step framework for handling any error or complaint scenario.
And APEX-L really enforces the correct GMC-aligned sequencing. It stands for Apologize,
Hey,
protect, which means assessing harm.
basically.
Escalate, explain the next steps. And finally, learn, which covers documenting and improving.
Let's spend a bit of time on those first two steps because they're critical. Starting with the A, acknowledge and apologize. This brings up the big anxiety point for so many people.
Hmm.
Do I apologize immediately, even if the investigation isn't complete? Or if I'm not even sure if I'm legally liable, doesn't that risk everything?
That is the most common point of hesitation, and it's based on a total misunderstanding. The duty of candor requires you to offer a sincere apology for the harm or distress caused, and to do it immediately.
Even if the investigation is still going on.
Even then, an apology is an act of humanity and professionalism. It's not by itself an admission of legal liability. If you delay, the patient feels ignored, and that trust is just destroyed. You have to share the known facts, apologize for the distress, outline the investigation, and promise updates.
I think that distinction is crucial. You're apologizing for the outcome or the distress, not necessarily admitting fault before all the facts are in.
Exactly.
And while you're doing that, you're simultaneously executing the P in Apex L.
Precisely. This is the crucial clinical assessment. Is the patient in ongoing or potential harm? What immediate safety actions are required? Stabilizing the patient always comes first.
Always.
So if the error was, say, a medication mix-up, your first action is securing the patient's immediate safety. That comes even before the full disclosure. If they're safe, then you proceed with candor. Safety first.
So once the immediate safety and the apology are handled, we move swiftly into E, escalate, and X, explain.
And escalation via governance is non-negotiable. This means informing your senior, your registrar, or your consultant, and submitting the formal incident report.
So you're making the system aware.
You're ensuring the system is aware and can mobilize resources. That might include involving PELSS or the complaints team if the patient needs that support.
And when you explain, you're basically just setting expectations.
Exactly. You explain the next steps and the timelines for the investigation and any updates. A patient who is told, "We will look into this and get back to you by 5 p.m. tomorrow," is, well, they're far more reassured than one who is just left in the dark.
Let's dissect that model phrase the sources suggest, because this is absolute gold for anyone listening. I'm sorry this happened. Here's what we know, what we're doing to keep you safe today, and when we'll update you.
That sentence is perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect because it covers all the bases. You've got the apology,
Yep.
the known facts, the immediate safety action, which is the protect part,
And the timeline.
and the promise of a future update, which is the explain. It makes you sound compassionate, honest, and competent all at once.
And finally, step 5, L, learn. This is about converting what could be a catastrophic event into some kind of systemic improvement.
Yes, and the documentation you create here under the L is absolutely critical. It has to include an objective timeline, who was present, exactly what information was shared, the apology you gave,
Any safety action.
any immediate safety actions, the fact you escalated, and the incident report number. You're creating a clear, contemporaneous record of your adherence to your professional duties.
Okay, so the Apex L framework gives us the structure. But some scenarios are so serious, they kind of override that normal flow and demand immediate, specific intervention. Where are the absolute red flags that demand you stop everything and intervene?
These scenarios are the ones that test your professional integrity and your dedication to patient safety above absolutely everything else. I'd say there are 3 key areas where delay or the wrong action is catastrophic.
Let's start with safety, the clinical non-negotiable.
If you encounter ongoing or potential harm, that is the highest priority red flag. If the error, let's say a misplaced drain or an incorrect drug dosage, is still actively posing a risk, you need an urgent clinical review and immediate mitigation.
So you act first.
You must act to stabilize the patient before you even worry about paperwork or disclosure.
Okay. The second area touches on honesty, which is a key part of professional probity.
This is the red flag of pressure to conceal or alter records. If any senior or colleague suggests you hide the error or cover it up or retrospectively edit the notes without proper timestamping,
You have to say no.
you must refuse, stop the action immediately, and escalate that specific pressure to a higher senior or the clinical governance team. Preserving the integrity of the medical record is absolutely fundamental.
And the third flag goes right back to candor itself.
That's the situation where you realize the patient has not been informed of a significant error that meets the threshold for disclosure. If the duty of candor has been unmet, maybe a mistake happened on a previous shift and the team just decided to ignore it, You have to initiate that disclosure process immediately.
So you tell the patient and escalate.
You inform the patient and escalate to ensure a formal investigation happens.
So we see a clear hierarchy there. Clinical safety, then professional integrity, then disclosure. These flags mean no matter how busy you are, you stop and you prioritize this action.
Correct. And we also have to include the welfare of the team here. If you see staff distress or unsafe performance after an incident, that is a red flag for the system. Your response has to be support and getting senior input. You cannot allow a traumatized or impaired colleague to continue working unsafely.
Now let's shift our focus to the dark side, the low-scoring trap answers that look really tempting when you're panicking, but they actively violate GMC principles. If you remember one golden rule, it should be open now, escalate now, document now. Never conceal, delay, or falsify.
The exam writers rely on testing your immediate reaction. They know that defensiveness is a natural human reaction, but it is a completely unacceptable professional reaction.
Okay, let's start with the trap of delay, the classic low-scoring option. Wait until tomorrow in case harm resolves. I can see the perverse logic there, If the patient's fine tomorrow, I don't have to deal with all the paperwork today. Why does this just utterly tank the score?
It fails because it introduces risk and it destroys trust. First, you risk further harm by not fully investigating the situation immediately. Second, you are actively delaying candor.
Right.
You know an event has occurred, and withholding that information even for 12 hours is a breach of your professional duty, and it fundamentally erodes the patient relationship.
Okay, another insidious trap is the action to fix it quietly and don't tell the patient or report it. I can really see this temptation, especially with a small error, like a mislabeled sample that was caught before it was used. You think, I fixed it, no harm done.
That quiet fix is so dangerous because it prevents systemic learning. The reason the sample was mislabeled still exists. You hide the problem and you guarantee it will happen again to someone else.
I see.
And what's more, if the patient ever finds out that a significant error was concealed, even if no harm occurred, the erosion of trust is irreversible. And that leads to formal complaints down the line.
And what about the option that tries to shift responsibility, the one that says blame colleagues to appease the complainant?
That is a massive red flag for professionalism. The focus should always be on facts, on systems, and on learning. It should never be on assigning blame to an individual colleague just to make yourself look better or to appease a patient. That just undermines team morale and integrity.
And finally, we have to reiterate the most serious probity breach mentioned in the source material. Editing notes retrospectively without a clear timestamp or justification.
This is the difference between an error and, well, a crime against professional integrity. If you need to add information to notes later, which is fine, we all forget details, you must clearly date it, timestamp the addition, and state that it is a late entry.
But never just change it.
Falsifying, deleting, or altering the original facts retrospectively is professional dishonesty. It will score the lowest possible mark. You must uphold your professional probity.
So once the immediate actions are complete, the apology's been given, the patient is stable, the incident is reported, we move into the broader world of governance. We mentioned PALs earlier, but who is truly accountable for managing that formal complaint process?
Well, clinically, the ultimate oversight belongs to your consultant or the responsible senior. But the formal process, the investigation, the formal letters, the timeline, that's typically handled by the hospital's dedicated complaints team or PALs.
So your role as a junior doctor is just to be responsive.
Your role is to be responsive, to provide factual information when you're asked, and to remain empathetic. But you must not try to bypass the established governance channels and handle the entire investigation yourself.
That brings us back to the learning element. If we're following the L and A pixel, how do we make sure our reflection is constructive and actually leads to safer practice?
Your focus has to shift from who did it to why did the system allow it to happen. You must focus on systemic factors, on shared team learning, and on specific practical changes you'll make personally and suggest for the team.
So no blame.
Reflection should never include speculation or, again, blaming individuals. It has to be focused on concrete prevention.
Let's reinforce that governance integration with one last key model phrase for listeners to use when they're dealing with a concerned patient who wants to know what happens next.
You should always communicate that the formal process is in play. So you could try something like this. I've informed my consultant and submitted an incident report so the team can formally investigate and prevent a recurrence. PALs can also support your concerns regarding the process.
That gives them both sides of it.
It gives the patient the clinical reassurance and the governance pathway.
And finally, a quick word on supporting colleagues. It's often very difficult being the doctor who made the mistake, and the SJT often tests your response to a colleague's distress.
You absolutely have a duty of support. Offer to listen, encourage them to take breaks, to debrief, to access well-being resources. You must never shame, never gossip, and never isolate a colleague who has made an error. The culture should be one of continuous improvement, not punishment.
But there's a limit.
There is. If the colleague's performance is impaired and it's affecting patient care, however, your primary duty to patient safety means you have to escalate that specific concern to a senior for intervention. It's a fine balance, but patient safety always leads.
And we know that resources are really key here for anyone preparing for these kinds of high-stakes ethical and professional scenarios.
Absolutely. For those looking for more detailed scenario practice and a breakdown of this specific scoring logic, including how the GMC rules apply in different clinical contexts, a great resource to explore is passthemsra.com.
Because knowing the rules in theory is one thing.
But applying them under pressure is another, and practice is essential.
This has been a really crucial deep dive into the high-yield management of errors and complaints. Let's summarize the 3 critical takeaways you need to hold on to. Number 1, own it early, apologize immediately, be specific, and be humane.
Number 2, stabilize the patient first, always. Then disclose and escalate via the proper governance channel, so that's seniors and incident reporting.
And number 3, document facts, document decisions, and always ensure full documentation probity, especially when you're logging that incident report.
And we covered 4 essential terms that should now be fully integrated into your professional vocabulary. Candour, which is openness and honesty when things go wrong.
Governance literacy.
Which is knowing and using systems like incident reports and PALs. Then there's probity,
Upholding professional honesty.
especially regarding records. And finally, PACELS, the patient advice and liaison service, which helps patients raise concerns.
We focused a lot on the mechanism of response. But let's end with a provocative thought that extends beyond the immediate error.
Well, the ultimate professional requirement is not just how you respond when an error occurs, but how committed you are to changing the system that allowed the error to happen in the first place. You have a professional duty to turn incidents into shared practical learning. Your commitment to safety is really demonstrated by that follow-through, making sure the next patient doesn't face the same risk.